Welcome to episode 9 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
Dude, did you catch Walking Dead the other night?
Yeah, you know what? I've been waiting for this to happen because, like everybody else, I got sucked into the show, and I didn't read the comic books at all until after the show. And
Yeah, I didn't either.
I read pretty far up a little bit past what happened this weekend. And I remember reading this section I remember reading this part, this issue, and thinking, how the hell are they going to do this? Because it's pretty graphic, and it's pretty rough. I mean, the whole show is rough and graphic, but the shit that they do in this episode was ridiculous, and I could not believe they actually pulled it off. Like everything everything from basically the entire family getting killed, and Rick like chopping her hand off.
Oh my gosh!
And of course Carl, getting half a quarter of his face blown off. So I just couldn't believe everything that happened. Oh, and by the way, spoilers. We always forget that.
Oh yeah. Sorry about it. Yeah. Well, you could just be guaranteed pretty much anything we talk about is going to be spoilerific. But
yeah,
dude, I was amazed. I was so amazed because like some of the shots that they did were straight out of the comic book.
Yeah, I know. This was
thrilling.
It stood out so much because I couldn't believe some of the things that they were going to do or that they had to do for this episode or for this part of the issue.
Yeah.
And I could not believe how much they pulled straight from the frame. Like the frame where Carl looks back to the camera and says "Dad," like that's straight out of the comic book. And like half of his eyes, his eyes blown out, like it's crazy.
Yeah, I wondered. I knew this episode was coming up, and I really wondered how they were going to do just that. And they freaking did it. I mean, they just straight shot for shot. Season 6 has actually been kind of a roller coaster in that it's roller coaster in that it's been really solid at one point and then really dull. And then now it's just completely picked up again, big time. The first 3 episodes of season 6 were really, really solid, like really awesome, really thrilling. And then when they did that whole cliffhanger with Glenn,
right?
Pinned down next to the dumpster, and you think, oh, he's gonna die, and then they just go off into an hour and a half episode about Morgan, and you're like, I don't really give a shit what happened before that. Go back.
Yeah, there was a lot of backtracking. Right? Weren't there 2 flashback episodes, or was it 1? I can't remember.
It was the one with Morgan, and it was like a 90-minute one, which was really oddly placed.
Yeah,
to be honest, it was really oddly placed, especially when the first 3 episodes were so thrilling and just balls to the wall, and then they just slowed it way down. With that episode, and then there was like 2-3 episodes after that were back in Alexandria, but they were again like you didn't know how Rick got there. Like he was pinned down in the Winnebago, and yet he just shows up at Alexandria like, yeah, hey, I'm here, and you're like, okay, wait, I want to know how you got there, like what happened, and so it just slowed way down, and then the last episode of the first half of season 6. Again, picked up right away and did really well. And then at the very end, when that little kid starts yelling "Mom," you're thinking, "Oh shit," And
that's how it happened in the comic book, right?
Yeah, that exact thing happened. He started
saying words, and then the walkers started recognizing that he was speaking, right? And that's how it happened.
That's how it happens.
Right.
It happened a little different in the show, because like. They wandered quite a ways before
they did the mom thing attacked. Right at this. They did the mom thing this episode before.
Yes,
and then the episode, and then
they kind of like when they started this one, he had stopped talking and they wandered a ways away, and then he started having these like weird flashbacks of what Carol had told him about the walkers, like basically they will start eating you alive and there's nothing you can do, it's like really fucked up to tell a little kid, but
that's essentially what happens.
Yeah. And then it happens to him. And then the mother just stood there, watching it. I was like yelling at the TV. I'm like, bitch, get out of there. What are you doing? And I'm like, that's not how it happens.
In the comic books, I think she tries to save him, and that's how she gets eaten.
Well,
right?
they're all holding hands. That's the key. They're all
Okay,
holding
that's in the
hands.
comic books, right?
Right. And so the kid's getting eaten and she won't let go of his hand. Then she starts getting eaten and she's not letting go of Carl's hand. And like there was no hesitation from Rick. He literally just took his hatchet out and lopped her arm off. But in this, they kind of did that little thing where like he starts thinking about
Yeah, it
her
was
or
a
the you
weird.
know,
It was a that was a weird edit. I thought that was kind of odd because they had never done that before.
they had never done that before. And the
That kind of
tone that the
flashback memory episode, like happening all at this, all at the same
right.
time. But the way that they edited it together, it wasn't like a clean, meshed in edit. It was like rough and raw, and I think that's what stood out for me. Like they basically like went with like they didn't go to a black screen. They went to like a bright red screen, and
Yes.
and then it didn't like fade cut into live action. It was just straight cuts, and that's what
Straight
stood out to me.
cuts.
Yeah, yeah, because I've worked on Final Cut before, and something like that looks really when I do it, it looks really awful. But when they when they did it in when they did it in the show, it got their point across because it was so raw, and I don't know, it didn't seem like it seemed like they made a conscious effort to make it cut that way, and it was really good the way it was done because man, it was also a good way to to shock the audience too right before he chops her hand off because I was waiting for it because like we said we've read the
Yeah.
comic to it, but that didn't happen in the comic books like you said. He just does it in the comic books. There's no
Yeah,
hesitation.
he just does it.
You know what's great?
Yeah, who I'm trying to
I wonder if I wonder in the comic books if he had like no hesitation because in the comic books he doesn't have a hand. He's like, well, if I can't fucking have one, you can't have one either. And he cuts their hand off.
pretty much. He's like, you can't have a hand, you can't have a hand, Carl, you can't have an eye. Yeah, well, yeah, because early on he gets his hand chopped off by the governor, but
Yeah,
in the in the show and they kind of hinted like early on in season 6 that he might lose his hand, but they haven't really gone back to that.
yeah,
Like
more
he had
like
an injury.
that was more like a fu to some of the comic book fans. Like you think you know what's going on, but really you don't.
Yeah, I think it was Nicotero directed this, which he has directed some of the best episodes. Like his visual style is just getting better and better. And like you said, like some of the edits, like they would like turn to red, and that's when they would like go ape shit,
Right.
or black, or wasn't there a
What
point
was
when
remember the quick cuts with the when it showed every
yeah,
single person just looking down on
yes,
the camera?
that was jarring. I was like, what the hell? Trying to think of some movies that have done that before. That kind of edit, but like everyone was swinging a hatchet or a sword or something down, and
It
it was
almost. Do
fucked
you
up. Like,
remember Fists of Fury with Bruce Lee,
yes,
and he's looking down on the camera, just punching left and right,
yes,
but it's
yes,
intermittent. It's cut with something else every time he punches with one hand, something cuts, and then he punches
something
with another, and
cuts.
something cuts. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. I think it's Fist of Fury.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
he just had a really good just really good visual style. And okay, so the beginning of that episode was really thrilling because it starts off with that biker gang and they
Oh
stop
my God!
Daryl and
Yes.
Abraham and Sasha,
Holy shit! Yes, yes.
and you kind of like. I was thinking to myself, like, they have that rocket launcher, they should totally. But then they get him out of the car, and I'm like, oh well, that's out of the.
I
That's out of the.
completely forgot they had a
That's
rocket
not going to
launcher.
happen.
I completely forgot. I completely forgot.
And
So when that shit blew up, I was like, who the
I
hell did
jumped,
that?
dude. It made me jump. I was like, what the hell just
That was
happened? And then
so
because
awesome.
you think that Abraham or Sasha is going to get it. They're like, "Oh fuck, they're going to kill off one of these
Yeah,
guys
that's what I was
this
thinking
episode."
too. I was thinking the
And
same
I was
thing.
like, I was like, take Sasha out. That's all right because I think Abraham in the comics lasts a little bit longer. But that just it was jarring. And then Daryl comes walking around, and I just got up and cheered. I'm like, fuck, I'm like Daryl, you're
Yeah, me
such a
too.
badass.
I watched it by myself, and I was kind of cheering that. I was like, what the hell? That was awesome.
But so after the episode was over and I started thinking about it, I'm like, how stupid are these people? I mean, obviously they don't know who Daryl is, but by looking at him compared to the other two, he looked like kind of a badass
Yeah.
compared to the other two, and like yet they just sent one guy back there, like, come on, let's go back of the back of the truck. I'm like,
Right.
where no one else is there. I'm like, wouldn't you send 2 or 3 guys? Like, those guys weren't even spread out; they were all stuck in the middle like that, and just sitting there like looking all fucking cool and
They were basically
smoking their cigarette.
stormtroopers.
they were basic just being. I mean, they were cocky.
Yeah.
That's what they were. But
Well,
that rocket launcher blows them up.
they did mention Negan and the
Yes,
main
and
guy.
that got me excited. Negan, let me tell you, man, he is like the governor
I
to the
haven't. I
10th
don't. I
power.
can't remember.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I actually read the comic because I stopped after two or three issues after this thing that just happened in Alexandria in the
So
show.
you're like probably in the 90s, maybe you're in
Yeah,
the
something like
80s,
that.
somewhere around
Where
there.
I'm around the part where Rick has that huge speech, and you start to see like his confidence build of telling people like.
Oh,
So he realizes what he has to do now. So I didn't even get to Negan yet, but
yeah, the speech that he tells to Carl, I
it's like
believe that's
isn't
the
that like
same
word
speech he
for
used.
word in the comics?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, the speech that he used to Carl when he was like, in the recovery room was the same speech I think he said out loud to everybody, and it was really good. Normally those speeches can be cheesy or kind of like,
Right.
yeah, whatever, but it really like it. He did a really good job, like doing that little monologue. Like it actually got something. I was got a little not emotional, but I was like, all right, like cool. Like that character's like coming full circle now.
Yeah.
And
Because I
but
mean
just a
they killed like
fantastic
what,
job.
like 300, I don't even, maybe more than 300. They killed like, I don't even know how many walkers they killed.
My
It was
gosh,
even more. It was even more in the comic books.
he was like Alan Rickman in Galaxy Quest, man. He just
Yeah.
like had enough, and like when he couldn't do anything for Carl, like he took him to the infirmary, and he's just like,
Yeah.
I can't fucking, I can't sit here. And he goes out by himself, lone wolf, and starts taking those things on. I was like, dude, I got goosebumps. I'm like, oh my gosh, and he's taking on just
That's what I
hordes,
was
and
waiting
then
for too. That was the other thing I was waiting for was to see like
yeah,
how they were going to film these thousands and thousands of walkers in Alexandria and all of them just basically because in the comic books that hole in the
it was
wall
daytime.
it was daytime and on top of the fact
Hmm.
that after a while because they were killing so many walkers that they actually couldn't even walk on the streets there were so many there
Yeah,
weren't
they were piling
yeah
up.
there weren't
Yeah.
that as many obviously because it's a TV show but you can guarantee if it was a movie they would have CG'd like 1,000 more because
Oh yeah,
in the
for sure.
show when you saw the other people standing on the second floor looking down on Alexandria, you could see like maybe like 100 walkers spread out over the street. But in the
Yeah.
comic books, you were basically shoulder to shoulder, and that's what Rick fought in the comic books. And I mean, but again, they still did a great job in the show because I don't know, they just everything that I was expecting after I read the comic, they pulled off like really well
In spades,
in the
man.
show.
It,
Did I can't remember though? Did I don't think in the comic books they killed most or the majority of the walkers from a gas fire in the lake, right? They basically
no, they
just
didn't
killed
do
them
they
all.
didn't do any of that. They just killed them all,
Yeah,
just hatchet style. And I guess probably for TV, they probably decided to do it that way to kind of like
I
I
liked
don't, I
it.
don't know. I think it made sense. It
Yeah,
made sense to me. Well, although it did make sense to start a fire with a rocket launcher, but whatever. It's like, does anyone have a fucking match?
yeah.
Like,
Maybe you shouldn't
what?
stand on top of the gasoline tanker just in case something goes wrong.
Right? I forgot about that. Yeah, they emptied out the gas into the lake, and then he starts the
But
fire
they
with a
have a
rocket launcher.
full tank. They have
Little
a full
overkill.
tanker now of gas.
Yeah, but I mean that's the new definition of overkill is rocket launcher to start a fire. But
But it
fuck,
worked. It filmed beautifully too.
yeah, it did. That shot was so awesome,
I
and
read
probably the
I read
sound.
today that that wasn't a CG fire. That they actually lit that whole thing on fire with propane tanks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, did you watch Talking Dead
Yeah,
afterward,
they
or have
said.
you got a chance?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw. He said he was doing. Well, I read it too, but they did the propane tanks so that it was continuously
Ye-
gas coming out of it,
Yes.
so they could keep the fires going, and it was done. It was perfect. It was awesome. I hate.
Yeah. No,
You
it
know,
was really,
the
really
one
well
gripe I
done.
did have in this show. The one gripe I did have in the show was the fact that um, Glenn was teased about dying again.
That bothered me a little bit. But see, here's the thing. Like, okay, spoilers for those of you that do not read the comic book. But Glenn, the way he dies is, it's it's like a death that you would expect a main character to have. I won't say like how or when or anything like that. But so every time they teased it, I just didn't believe it. I was like, nah, they're not
Well,
going to
I
do
knew
that.
he wasn't going to die in this episode after the 4 episode stint of him pretending to be dead. So,
I just think that it would have been a
writers would
really
have been
poor
just, if
writing.
they actually did that, the writers are a complete bunch of dicks,
Yeah,
to
I
bring
would
a
have said
character
I
back.
would have said I would have rage hated the show, but they pulled it off. But yeah, doing that, even just hinting that he might die, was a little bit like I was starting to get a little. I was a little bit irritated, but then like you see Abraham go over the wall and start shooting him, and all that
Right.
stuff. And I'm like, okay, and then I was like, hooray, they showed up, and
That's two.
he's like, would you?
That's 2 points. That's 2 parts in that episode where a main character is about to die. Well,
He
actually, do you
saved his
consider?
ass.
Yeah, the first time was the rocket launcher, and then it was Glenn. But did you think? Do you think Abraham and those other characters are main characters now, or do you still consider it the core, which is
I,
Carol? Michonne's actually
I
a main
don't.
character now.
I think they're just kind of part of the group, Like I don't know, like he's kind of like Gunther.
Abraham,
He's
and
kind of
what's
like
her face have been there a long time.
They have, but they still feel like Gunther on Friends. They don't feel like completely, like the core characters is Rick and Carol and Glenn and Maggie,
Yeah, and
Carl.
Carl and
Yeah,
Michonne is part of that, and of course,
yeah. Michonne's been there
Daryl.
since season 3. Yeah, so I guess so. I mean, they don't really do a whole lot with Abraham and Sasha that much anymore, and especially like I think the other, I can't remember the girl who's a lesbian who came with Abraham, and then the other girl. No, the one that the one girl came with the governor, I think, but then she
Yes,
moved over.
yeah, she was the one that ended up kissing the doctor.
Yeah,
Or the
yeah,
doctor
which
kissing.
that was
Not the
pretty
doctor.
sweet. I
It
thought that
wasn't
was
really
cool.
a doctor. It's a
Right, the pretend
vet,
doctor.
whatever she is. But yeah,
Yeah, so those characters are kind of like secondary, but I know stuff that happens later on too to some of those characters. I won't say.
yeah, I'm gonna
anything,
start reading ahead too.
if you haven't got that far. Yeah. So, but all I can say is Negan is a son of a bitch, and they got who did they get? They got the comedian to do it. Oh my gosh, his name is Dean Morgan. What's his first name? I can't remember. Like,
It's not.
but
Dean-
anyway,
it's not. He's not a comedian. Oh, the comedian from. You
the
mean
comedian
from
from
The Watchmen?
The Watchmen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
got him to
Jeffrey
play
Dean
Negan,
Morgan.
which Jeffrey, thank you, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, which is amazing casting. let me
I'm
tell you.
surprised he
He's a
never
really
took
good-
off. His career didn't take off
It
after The
didn't.
Watchmen.
He was more well known at that point as playing this guy. I think his name was Denny, and it was on Grey's Anatomy. Like he was a big deal.
Oh, I knew him
that
from.
show.
I knew him. He was the father in Supernatural.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That's how I knew him, and I loved him in that
I don't
show.
really watch that. I don't watch that show too much, but
It's
yeah,
gotten. It hasn't gotten.
he's
It's
kinda-
gotten worse.
it's been on like for 50 seasons.
Well, I know it's kind of like the same thing that happened with Smallville. Like the first 2 seasons, 2 or 3 seasons of Supernatural were phenomenal. Do you know the story? The first season.
I
first few
really
seasons?
don't.
Do you
I
care?
don't. You
Do
can
care?
spoil it all you want.
All right, spoilers. So it's basically about these brothers that grew up without a mom because the mom was killed by some demon when the youngest boy was in the crib. And so the father now spends the rest of his life trying to hunt that demon down. Because before then, like everybody else, they didn't believe in demons and werewolves and things like that. So anyway, so they call themselves hunters, right?
Okay.
And the father just goes off and takes these 2 boys on this journey of trying to find this demon. And then the younger one, as he gets older, just quits what they call, quote unquote, the family business, which is, kill the bad things at night.
Supernatural things.
You're right.
Yeah.
So he goes off to be a doctor. And
Doctor.
right, and this is the series premiere, and the older brother comes looking for him and says that the dad has gone missing. We need you to come, I need you to help me find dad. And the episode ends with they don't know where the dad is, but they found his diary. He goes home and rests. He thinks his girlfriend or fiance is in the shower. and then all of a sudden he looks up at the sky and she's there, uh, bleeding, with a wall of fire behind, like the ceiling's on fire, and it's the identical way that the mother died. So
Oh,
so he
okay.
goes off and says, basically he's got nothing there anymore. His fiance is dead, and he wants to go find this person that killed now his mother and his fiance. So he goes off and tries to helps the older brother, find the father. And now so
Okay.
the first two seasons, they kind of do the monster of the week thing, but they do it in such a way that had never been done before, where they take big, like big name types of things like werewolves and vampires and stuff like that and
Hmm.
ghosts, and they try to put like a I don't even know what, like a weird spin on it where it's more grounded somehow. It feels more grounded, that they
Huh.
can actually fight ghosts or poltergeists with like salt. They use like salt bullets. Um,
Okay.
so, but
So
anyway,
they can
so
kill
it's like,
ghosts.
well, ghosts and werewolves and monsters, like they classify like the boogeyman as some different kind of monster where he's actually more than one person and things like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
anyway, they try
Cool.
to track the demon, and it's this entire show of them just trying to find the mother's killer and the fiance's killer, and it ends up being like a family show, kind of. Well, not like family like Full House, but like family show. Like it's about the love of the brothers and the love of the father trying to find, the killer, and you find out halfway through like season 3 or 4 that the youngest brother was actually supposed to be taken away twice because he was born with some like special abilities. And
Oh.
so, but
Well, maybe I'll watch the first 4 seasons and then I'll
yeah,
just turn it
like I
off.
said, the first 4 seasons get really good because then you start finding out like that the demon, there is a hell and a heaven, and they start talking about that, but in a way that is not cheesy, like making vampires, made out of diamond when sunlight hits their
Twinkle.
face, right? So like it's a really cool spin on the angels and the demons and heaven and hell and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden the characters start dying and coming back. Like
Oh
worse
my
than comic
gosh.
books. Like
Right.
I think each brother has supposedly died 3 times each.
It's like a supernatural soap opera.
Yeah, so I mean, but
That's
it's one of their
crazy.
longest running shows. It premiered, I think, season 3 of Smallville, something like that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's been going on for a really long time, and I'm actually completely behind this season. I think somebody died again, and I was like, all right,
They
I
keep
can't.
they keep showing up on Netflix. I think like 10, 11 seasons or
You
something like
should.
that are on there.
As much as I don't like what's going on now in the show, I would say the first 3 or 4 seasons are just ridiculous. That's what got me
Um,
hooked in. So if you like that
I
creepy
might
kind of
check it
stuff,
out.
maybe your woman might like it because she's into that kind of
Yeah.
creepy
Oh
shit.
yeah, she
So
likes that. She
so
likes that
but
stuff.
trust me, the first few seasons are great on that show. So definitely take some time for that show if you're trying to find something
Yeah,
like that's
I'll
not
take some time. I'm
superhero-ish.
right. Well, as soon as I finish American Horror Story, oh god, I can only watch a little bit at a time because it freaks me the hell out. But it's
The first season freaked me out of that show, and then they
yeah.
completely
Oh, Murder
lost
House
me.
is.
They completely lost me in the first season, when they did the Black Dahlia murder. They completely ruined it for me after
Oh,
that.
was that the Coven?
No, no, no. This is
Yeah,
the very first season. The very first
the very
season.
first the very
It was in
first
the
season
house.
of was Murder House. Yeah,
Right.
it's called Murder House.
Right.
Oh
And they
no,
did
I
the Black
enjoyed the hell out
Dahlia
of
in the
that.
first one, and they just took me out of it. Funny, like, so we're doing a podcast on The Walking Dead. So Jesse, who just died this past Sunday, getting eaten and getting her hand cut off by Rick. She
Uh-huh.
is the hot maid in the first season of American Horror Story.
Oh, when she's not the old lady, and
Right.
and she,
Right.
and
When
they
she's a
well because
redhead,
the
she's a
yeah
redhead.
yeah.
Yep, that's her.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No, that's her, man. I was like, where have I
That
seen this girl before? This woman
oh
before
man,
when I was
I'm
watching,
gonna go back and
Walking
watch that
Dead.
now. I'm gonna go watch it again.
Oh my
That's
god,
the
she's
best part
so
of that
hot in
show.
that one.
Every time that guy looked at her, she was like all hot, but it was the older maid.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
exactly.
so funny. Oh
It
my
was almost
god.
like it was almost as disgusting as the scene in The Shining where he goes to
He's like shallow Hal.
where Jack Nicholson goes to kiss that naked lady out of the bathtub,
Oh,
and she ends
that's
up being like
right.
fucking like dead and like that's
Disgusting.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's like the worst kind of shallow Hal syndrome you can have. It's
yeah.
like That's crazy. But so yeah, there's just aspects of The Walking Dead that I really really like. And basically, the biggest thing is just the character development. You know, it's not necessarily the zombies, although sometimes they have really cool ways
Yeah,
to kill the zombies, or really
yeah,
cool. Like, you remember that episode where the zombies were like melted to the asphalt? Like, it was
yeah,
disgusting, but it was so
yeah.
fucking cool. I was like, yeah, they keep upping the ante with these zombies. They
Yeah,
keep
you know what's
doing
crazy?
things.
Like how it's so fucking gross to think, and especially when like you thought Glenn was dying. Remember how graphic that scene was, where like the
Yes, when
guts
they're
were coming out and shit.
eating the guy.
So here's
Yeah.
my question for the FCC people: how come you can show me that, but basically you're showing me like R violence on cable TV, right? But you can't show me a pair
Right.
of tits.
On The Walking Dead.
I don't
Yeah.
care
Hey,
anywhere.
how
Like
come
show
we
me a
have?
pair of
Yeah,
tits anywhere. You
if
can
if
show
if they're gonna
Carl with his
show,
face blown off. You could show people being eaten alive. You can show like intestines and guts and zombies' faces melted to the asphalt. Just like gross, disgusting shit. But you can't show me a nice pair of tits.
well,
Well, what's going to give me
here's
nightmares? Like what's going to give a kid nightmares? The zombies or a pair of tits?
Well, you know what, man? I've always wondered. I don't understand, but you don't see one pair of zombie boobs at all, because you'd figure by now some shirts are ripped open, or
I'm talking
something.
about
You don't see
normal.
anything.
I'm talking about nice, normal, warm, alive
You're
tits,
talking
and
about
you're talking
normal.
about
I'm
zombie
talking zombie
tits.
old
What is
tits.
wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Because that's more realistic to me. Like,
Zombie
by
tits are
now,
more
all those
realistic to
clothes would be
you?
ripped.
Did you just say
Yeah,
that?
because
Zombie tits are more realistic.
because well, they're not real people, but I'm just saying from the show perspective, those zombies that have been wandering around for ages, you would think that their clothes would be ripped from walking through the branches and the trees, but yet they're never naked. You know, they never show a woman zombie that doesn't have any clothes.
You're sick.
It's always a dude. Did you? I
You're
can't
s-
believe I'm having this conversation
yeah,
right
I
now.
know. I can't believe you
Have you
just
seen?
admitted that you would rather see zombie tits than real tits.
No, I'm not rather see. I'm just wondering why.
That's not what
But
it's coming off like.
speaking of speaking of which, edit that out, bitch. Speaking of which, like, did you ever see? I just watched it last week. Scout's Guide to the Apocalypse, or something like that, to the zombie
No,
apocalypse.
no, I wanted to see that.
Okay,
I have. I
it's
think I
pretty
have it
fun.
somewhere.
It's pretty funny. You know, there's a lot of funny things about it. Some normal gags and whatever. But there is one part where you get to see zombie boobies, and it's hysterical. It's so funny because like this like woman cop gets stuck and her shirt rips open and the kid like runs away from her, but he turns around and sees her boobs like flopping around, and he runs back and squeezes them, and then he runs away. It was awesome. I was like, oh my god! Like I could see someone totally doing that. But
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Anyway, oh, speaking of like dead women with boobs hanging out, have you seen 13 Ghosts? And there's this like,
Yes.
have you seen that?
Yeah.
That one ghost
It's
is like in the
it's
bathtub.
Shaggy's in it.
That's right, Ro Raggy. They had that beauty queen or whatever that
Yeah,
had slit her
killed
wrists.
herself. Yeah.
Man, every time she was on screen, I was like, all
I
right.
was thinking so I think like the exact opposite. I see they were like the beauty queen or whatever, and I'm like, so the poltergeist has fake boobs. Like that's what I was thinking.
They were pretty fake. The other thing, like speaking, we're going on a tit tangent now, but like speaking of that, I was watching the last episode of Game of Thrones from last year,
Okay,
and Lena Headley or whatever her name, I can't remember her name.
that
But she
wasn't
was
her
in
body.
300. That was not her body. I didn't know that. Like when I was watching the show, I was like, wow, like okay, I've
Yeah,
seen
they
her nude
CG'd
before in
they
different
CG'd her
things.
head.
Yeah, which is what an expensive thing to do when you could have just walked naked yourself. Was she just not happy with her body or something? Like what the hell? Like just
I never thought of it
but
that way. I never thought of the fact that she cost the studio like $10 million because she wouldn't just get naked.
it was an expensive trick.
It
And
was
she said
because she was
didn't
that
want to
walk
get
was
naked.
really long.
Yeah, in fact, none of those women want to get naked anymore. It's like in their contracts now. Like nobody wants to. Like they
Yeah,
have all these like
once they get on the
secondary.
show, once to get on the
Yeah,
show, you get naked, and then after that, you sign a contract that says, "I'm not getting naked anymore."
right, right, exactly. Which whatever. That's fine. There's plenty of that.
No,
But
I don't think that show is not running out of people that want to get naked on that show or get killed.
I know the people want to get on that show. They'll
Yeah,
do anything to get on that show.
it doesn't matter.
Anyway, um, so you've watched The Walking Dead from episode 1, right? Like
Yeah,
from the very
from the
very beginning.
very beginning and through Shane, I can't wait for you to be on Daredevil. Um, but yeah, through the whole Shane ordeal and through the whole, Judith might not be Rick's type thing.
They did. Oh yeah, they did shot for shots. Like when he went in the tank, and Glenn helped him.
Oh
Like
yeah.
Glenn shows up there. That was shot for shot out of the comic
So was
book.
the
Like really, and the
one where
horse.
Rick wakes up in the hospital
Yeah,
and he walks to the door and there's that iconic scene of them being chained and it's written on the door, don't enter or
yes,
whatever. That's right out of the comic books. That shot right there.
man. Talk about like that first episode was really awesome. Like that, if there was anything that would get you hooked, that was the thing. It
I
was like
still found it
super.
really hard to believe that he was the only one that like didn't get eaten because that entire hospital was just like destroyed.
Yeah, no, it was super super awesome. Um, and then like when Shane, um, like I remember reading the comic books, and one of the big reveals was it doesn't matter if you die of natural causes or if you get bit, you're still
Right.
going to turn into a zombie.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, I'm like that was
And
a
that was the
big
big
twist.
secret after they got out of Atlanta, right? That was the
Well,
thing that
yeah,
he got
actually,
whispered in the ear.
well, how they figured that out is they killed Shane, and Shane like crawls out of the grave or something, or like or stands up or
Right.
whatever. He stands up, and they're like, "What? Like he didn't get bit?" And they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. I think that's going to happen no matter what." And
No,
so,
that was they knew about that before
did
Shane
they?
turned. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was the
Cuz
thing
that
that
no,
got him
cuz that
convinced.
he killed Shane. He killed Shane halfway through their stay on the farm.
Oh, wait a minute. Shane had killed somebody in the forest, didn't he? And then they started walking around.
Yeah, I don't
Oh
remember. It's been
man,
a long time.
it
But
was
no,
something.
but
Yeah.
Rick knew because the scientist after they got out of that place, that lab or whatever, that's what he
Which that was all
whispered.
made up.
They whispered into Rick's he whispered that into Rick's ear that
Oh,
that happened and then Rick kept it a secret for like 4 episodes or whatever
that's right. I
and
forgot
then he
about
told
that.
everybody that no matter
Yeah,
what.
the whole CDC episode that never happened in the comic book. They actually added that in, and it was funny because it was so coincidental. Because they get there coincidental. They get there, and the place is like what hours from like shutting down and blowing up or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
what
What was the
bad
reason why it
timing?
blew up again?
I think they couldn't keep it contained. I think you needed a full staff or something like that to keep that place running.
Uh,
If I remember right, I don't know. So they had to like he kept it running as long as he could, and then he's like, yeah, it's gonna explode at the end of this timer. You guys need to, some of the people wanted to stay, and then some people left.
did you see the honest trailer that was released this week on The Walking Dead?
No,
There's an
no, I did
honest
not.
trailer. There's an honest trailer out there that just rips The Walking Dead to shreds.
Oh
And
god,
one of the things they say is watch a group of people just every time they show up to a place think that it's going to be home for them. It just blows up. So it's literally happened everywhere.
yeah, the farm, the jail,
Yep.
Alexandria.
What was the other one? Tempest or not Tempest? The warehouse where the cannibals were.
Oh, Terminus.
Terminus, right? That blew up. They blew that up.
Carol blew that up.
Yeah, every place that they've gone to has blown up. And what is another
Well,
thing they said? How much how much walking there actually is in the show. Like they
Yeah, I
just
think
walk.
they walk more than the zombies do.
Well, actually, that I think that's why they're called the Walking Dead. Is the people, not the actual zombies.
It's like, yeah, everybody walks. But they had
Uh,
the Terminus episode. I remember I dug that a lot too because that was really exciting when or thrilling or whatever you want to call it when
Yeah.
they started knocking people over the head with the bats and then slitting their throats like they were animals, like they were cattle or something
Yep.
like that. And they get to Glenn or they get to somebody and they're about to do it and there's all these explosions and then
That
they
was
cut to
Carol
Carol.
saving their ass. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think at that point she'd been banished for a while because she like killed.
No,
a
she
couple
didn't.
people that were.
She didn't banish. She didn't. I don't wait. Did Rick give her the
No,
option?
they exiled her. They exiled.
No,
her.
Rick did.
Yeah, he did. He's like, I can't. I can't have you.
But she survives.
She did, man. The thing. So it's amazing to me that a show could take a character that you pretty much dislike in the beginning. Because I didn't like Carol's character.
Why? Because she was weak?
Just whiny. I did feel bad for her because she was a battered wife, and her husband was a total asshole and all that, which you knew right away. He's wearing a red shirt, like you're done.
Yeah.
And she survives, and then her character has just grown and grown and grown to the point where like she's just a total badass now.
Well, let's not forget she's part of one of the biggest storylines that like shocked a lot of people in the show when they spent that whole season looking for the daughter and she was in the fucking farm the whole time.
Yeah, that was, oh my God, talk about a
like gut wrenching,
heartbreaking.
It was Daryl that finished her off, right?
So
was it
good.
Daryl?
No, I think it was Shane.
Oh,
I think I want to say it was Shane. And they were screaming no, like don't do it, and he just does it because he's like, we can't help them, they're done. And
that was when
that
Shane,
was heartbreaking.
before he came completely ape shit or batshit crazy.
Yeah, I mean his character, he's such a good actor, man. He's because we just hated him,
Yeah.
But he kind of had, if you think about it, he was the smartest character out of all of them. He knew like what he needed to do. And Rick didn't get that way until much later.
Until he started growing the beard.
Yeah, he started turning into Shane a little bit, like just not trusting anybody, just blowing them away as soon as they twitch or something.
That was after he got the shit beat out of him by the governor, right? Or it was before that?
Yeah, after I think after the governor, he completely when Lori died,
right.
He became crazy and he was like,
that was fucking ridiculous, that scene too.
It was, but that happened in the comic book too. He kept picking up the phone and talking to her and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
but I had never. No, not that. I'm talking about the fact that Lori gave birth and Carl had to shoot her in the head, and then Rick comes and sees this zombie with this full stomach, and you're like, oh my God.
That was disgusting. I'm like, oh my God, that thing is like, it's so fat and can't move because it ate Lori.
Yeah.
I was like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
But
you still can't see a pair of tits.
Right.
I completely forgot about that scene when we started the whole tit conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not at all what happened in the comic book either, because Lori and the baby actually die. And,
right.
They get shot, and it goes through her and through the baby. And of course, I kept thinking, oh my God, how are they going to do this? And of course, they didn't do it that way. In fact, Judith is still alive, which always makes me nervous.
I was like,
if they were to kill her,
like, how come every major thing, every major thing that happens to them for most of the season, you never see that fucking kid? And then, like, in the last episode, she just appears, and when she appeared in the episode, I was like, "Oh shit, I forgot Rick had a daughter." Like, she's so not in the show that you completely forget. And at this point, she feels like a fucking prop, because when she's around, she adds this extra tension to it. Because if you're like me, you fucking forget that she even exists, and sometimes I think they forget that she exists in the show because she's never mentioned. And
that's probably why they kept
last
her around,
night,
dude. I never thought of that.
And last night, she was basically used as a prop for the preacher guy, the priest, to step up and take. Now, if I'm Rick, and this is the guy who has been a big pussy the whole time, I'm not giving my daughter to him.
That's the last person you want to give it to. Like, here, Daryl, take the baby.
I'd rather strap it to a fucking zombie and let it walk. It'd last a lot longer than that guy.
Strap the baby on the back of a zombie and say, "Walk that way." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised how easily he gave the baby to Gabriel. So he must have been really fucking convincing.
That's probably because Rick
But
like fucking forgot he had a daughter too. He's like, who's that? Who's the white kid?
But see, hats off to Gabriel though. He manned up.
So did what's the other guy's name? The
Eugene,
Eugene, right? Yep, he stepped up
who probably is an even bigger pussy. But yeah, he sacked up too. He's like, no one's clocking out today. And I was like, oh, right on. Like, do it.
I thought he was going to be the first one that dies too. Like right as soon as I thought it was going to be one of those moments where the loser of the show or whatever gets like, it's like Bill Paxton in Aliens, where he just whines the whole fucking movie.
Hey, come on, man.
Yeah,
Where he's like Wicket the Ewok. Like all the Ewoks are throwing rocks and hitting stormtroopers, then he throws a rock and it hits himself.
Yeah,
in the head.
And then all of a sudden he steps up at the end of the movie, starts killing zombies, and then he not zombies, aliens, and then he's the one that fucking ends up dying. So I thought that was going to happen to Eugene. I thought he was going to be like, nobody checks out today, and then some zombie was going to like bite him in the face. Like as soon as he said that,
somebody might die. But I remember in the comic book, nobody died during that fight either. They all handled it, like killed them all and stuff. And it was all daytime, and there was no rocket launcher or light or anything like that. They just stood still. They just stood their ground and took out one.
But there was also a lot more in the comic books. There was a lot more people helping Rick.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, if they did it the same way, it would almost be like unbelievable, because they did take out a lot of zombies before Daryl did the Lake of Fire. But I was okay with that because it looked fucking awesome, and B, it made a lot more sense because they didn't have a lot of help like they did in the comic books.
So you know what sucks now though, dude? That fucking water's tainted. It sucks. You got fucking dead bodies in there now. It's like, we can't use this water at all for anything.
Oh, remember that scene on the farm when the water wasn't working and there was that fat zombie at the bottom?
They pull him up and it rips in half.
Yeah. But again, no tits. You can't see tits.
No, he had man boobs.
I forgot how grotesque that scene was. It's pretty bad.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
It just he slides. It just cuts it
off.
Oh
God, yeah.
They've been doing some really cool stuff with the zombies. Like there was an episode where I think it was the one where the quarry finally gave out and the zombies started getting by the cars, and there's the bumper that like ripped, or maybe it was the door. The zombie was like going in between the two cars, and the door like ripped its skin off its ribs.
Oh, right, yeah.
It was so cool. I was like, holy shit, how did they do that? Because it looked really real, They have, practical effects and CG, and I'm sure some of the zombie people that they hire are probably contortionists or like, skinny or.
They've gotten people. There's a guy that was on The Walking Dead, because he didn't have any legs, so
nice.
He decided I guess he wanted to be a zombie or whatever, and he was one of the walkers that didn't have legs that was crawling on his hands.
Dragging himself along the ground.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So there's no CG there.
That's interesting. I mean, you could hire like amputees and things like that to do zombies, if they wanted to. That's kind of a neat thing, for everybody. But
right.
It makes it more realistic, that's for sure. The one time that really freaked me out, like I said before, was when the zombies were all melted to the asphalt. I think that was like in season 5 or something like that. Yeah, it's disgusing. But
how about that one scene? Like, talk about gross in water. Remember that one where they got like trapped under the bottom of a supermarket or something, and there's walkers in the water, and the water's like 2.5 feet high, so you have no idea what's going on.
Oh, they fell through the ceiling.
Yeah, something like that happened where they were stuck. And there was like zombies.
Talk about your
in the water.
Worst nightmare, man. That'd be your worst nightmare, is being stuck down there. It reminded me of like that game. I have Half-Life and Half-Life 2. You don't like first-person shooters, but like,
well, it's not that I can't. I don't like them. I just can't play them.
Yeah, Half-Life 1 and 2 are very much like a first-person game. It's a lot of zombies, and it's kind of like a horror thriller type of thing situation. But there's a scene just like that where you have to go below this building and there's water down there, and you have to go turn on the power to the building. And so you go down there, and there's like you're just kind of walking through, and all of a sudden they just start popping up out of the water, and you're surrounded. It's fucking crazy. But it reminded me of that. It's that kind of shit scares me. It's
Yeah.
like my worst nightmare is being not just zombies, but being stuck in the dark with them in 2 feet of water.
Yeah, no, that's gross.
But no, this show, it has its ups and downs. Like I thought season 2 wasn't very strong, but they have really, I mean, in every season they have a standout episode, and I'd have to say that this one so far in season 6 is the standout episode. Like it was really solid. Um,
Yeah, I
had
guess this is
everything
like
going
the
for it.
equivalent of like the Red Wedding for me because I knew it was happening. I knew it was coming. Like whereas people in the
Yeah,
Game of Thrones who had read the books knew the Red Wedding was coming, and me, I had no fucking clue. And then when it happened, I couldn't fucking believe it.
it was
So,
shocking, dude.
so
That
I've got to,
episode was shocking.
yeah, but so that was kind of taken away from me because I read the comics. So
Right.
for The Walking Dead, so I knew it was coming. I mean, I still couldn't believe they did it because it would.
It was a different level of excitement, but yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
so
understand what you're
I'm
saying.
probably figuring like this episode is almost the equivalent of like, not almost the equivalent. It couldn't be because they killed a lot of fucking people in the Red Wedding, but in this one they killed a good amount of people, and it was especially with how it ended with Carl. I don't think a lot of people were expecting that unless you
No.
read the comics. So I knew it was coming, but maybe that's how the people who read the Game of Thrones felt like that. Like they knew it was coming and they just wanted to see it like on the screen.
When they showed that shot of him looking at Rick and he says "Dad" and then he falls
Yeah,
over, that just I couldn't. I was like, holy shit, they did it.
yeah,
Like they
me
did
too.
such an amazing job. It freaked me out. I wanted to like scream and go run and grab the comic book and like pause it and go like, oh my god, they did it. And I had often wondered like when I read the comic book, I was like, how the hell did he survive that? And then I don't know if you read some of the things this week, but the
Yeah, I
the
did. Yeah,
producers were saying, yeah, that the bullet essentially like ricocheted off the eye socket and then out the side, so it didn't really go into his brain. It
right.
just went through the eye and out the side. And I was like, okay, all right, it's like a regarding Henry situation, but it's a little different. He's
Right.
not he's not mentally ill.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you haven't read too far past that, but
No, I'm
the
think
one
I've
thing
only
I
like
could
two or
say,
three issues. Like I said, I'm at the point where
yeah,
Rick is
the
sending
one
out groups to actually clear places instead of hiding.
right, the one thing I could say is Carl. This is like another turning point for him, and some interesting things come out of that situation when he gets shot.
I think a little bit. I think I read a little bit of that, but I'll have to go back and look again.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna read now. I'm gonna read like crazy again. I'm gonna go back and read these again because it's been a couple of years since they introduced Negan, maybe even further back than that. But they're starting to catch up now to the books. Probably another season and a half, and they're probably caught up. But I can't wait to see Negan. I can't wait to see what. And I don't know how they're gonna do that because he's like Deadpool as far as like swearing. He swears up a storm.
Hmm.
F word here, like all over. So I don't know how they're going to shoot that. Like, are they going to? I guess they'd have to tone his language down, or they or
I don't
I
know, but they got a
do.
really good creepy actor, like a really good guy who could play creepy. Because remember, like that rape scene in the Watchmen that he did, he
Yes.
got like there was like a little bit of crazy in him there. So when I heard that he was cast for Negan, I was thinking like he's gonna tap into that craziness right there because he's got this like look that he looks like he could kill your dog while you're watching.
just wait, dude. He's got a bat called Lucille, and it's got like spikes and all kinds of shit on it. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
Read up to issue 100. 100 is really like shocking, and then it takes like a turn the series a little bit. I'm wondering if they're going to do a fast forward thing, because I think in the comic book, if I remember right, a long time goes by where there's no problems or issues. They actually get Alexandria to where they want it,
Hmm.
and then that's when Negan's group starts, fucking things up, and
Gotcha.
so it'll be really interesting to see. You have to read up, and maybe we'll
So yeah, so we
talk about it
got
later
we
on.
got the rest of The Walking Dead to look forward to for the rest of the season. Some big changes or big things coming up there.
Yeah, it's what a show. I mean, it's one of my favorite things on right now that's still continually giving greatness. Every week to week, doing it really. I look
You got to
forward to it
check
every week,
out
just like I do the Flash.
you got to check out the Honest trailer for The Walking Dead.
I'm going to right when I get off. I'm definitely gonna check it out. I
They
saw
make
the
fun
Force
of they make
Awakens
fun of
one.
him. They make fun of him now for like, they say like the show that used to not be afraid of killing any main characters to the show that never kills any main characters and just kills all the side characters.
Well, I always wonder if they're like at some point they're just going to kill Rick off. I mean,
I don't
yeah,
know.
I mean, it's not called Rick, Rick dead or anything. It's not. There's no. I mean, I guess he would be the main character because he's the first character that you see. But honestly, there's a lot of other characters that are you can consider main characters, and they can add character. Daryl's not even like real in the
Yeah, he
Zombie
doesn't
to begin
exist in
with,
the
but I mean, he's
comics.
not even. He's a complete made up character, and
Well,
I know
Carol had
people
already
that are like,
died
yes, Carol had already died. A few other people that were
because
in
it
there,
was it wasn't Carol. Her character morphed from the blonde that died with the whole governor thing.
Oh, Andrea.
Yeah, she's actually Andrea in the comic books, but Carol, I think, or
I'm not
something
sure
like that.
how
I
I
can't
felt
remember.
about that. They really changed the governor's character around a lot for the show compared to. In the comic book, he was very sadistic. I mean, he did have the daughter that was dead and walking around, and he like fed her feet and stuff like that. And he did have like people that committed crimes. He would have them fight to the death, to walkers in the arena and all that stuff. Like he did all that stuff, and he had all the heads in his room and all that shit.
Yeah,
But they kind of humanized him in the show. They humanized him, and they, in the comic book, he actually brutally rapes Michonne repeatedly,
right.
and
That doesn't happen
yeah,
in the show.
it doesn't happen. And so the payoff for the comic book is that she gets loose and just beats the shit out of him, takes his hand off, cuts his eye out, like just leaves him for dead. She actually nails his penis to the board,
Right, I
to
remember
the
that.
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just brutal. And I was like, how are they going to do this in the show? Which they didn't do it.
No, they
And
didn't.
instead they had Andrea like fall in love with them almost, like she was going to kill him and then she didn't.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on
And
there. That was
I
in the
don't know.
beginning before.
It was bizarre, but then they did a little episode with him just wandering around, and then he starts rising back up in the ranks again.
Yeah.
That was kind of interesting. I kind of like that.
Yep. So there we go. Episode
Yeah.
9 in the bag. The Walking Dead.
Go watch The Walking Dead if you haven't watched it. I don't know why you even listen to this, but it's an amazing show. It's on Netflix. I think the first 4 or 5 seasons are on there. So give it a look. It's worth it. Read the comic book. It's worth it. Yeah, but until next week, that's episode 9. Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
Later.
Later.